Welcome back, everybody. This is Unconditional Surrender, published by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta. This is the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. We're about ready to start March of 1942, as you can see by the turn track. First thing we'll need to do is roll the weather. Actually, the first thing we're going to do is the Russian winter is no more, and it can't come back, thank goodness. So now the weather will affect everybody equally, depending on what we roll. And we pull up I always get the wrong side of this card. So we're in March, April. We have to roll a die to see what the weather will be in the cold zone. We roll a 6. In March, April, that is severe, so it stays right where it is. In the mild zone, we roll a 3. In March, April, so that is poor. So that goes here. And then in the warm zone, we roll a 5, which makes it severe. Oh, dear. Not the greatest weather in the springtime here. And that's the weather. Severe weather is the worst because it halves your die rolls, so there won't be any dramatic shifts. Thank goodness that the desert is always clear, because then the West might be able to do something there. There's no declarations of war by the Axis. The West is not ready to declare war on anything. Oh, that brings me to something that I forgot to do. When I conquered Syria here, I forgot. I did put a pro marker in the Diplomacy Cup. Diplomacy Cup's not likely to come up unless I can somehow collapse Russia. But I also should have placed a pro-Western marker in a country that borders the conquered country, Syria. So I could put it in the capital of Iraq, or I could put it in the capital of Turkey. And the reason why I put it in Turkey is if somehow the Germans manage to figure out a way to collapse Russia and the diplomacy gets turned back on for a few turns, I'm standing at a positive side to the Western Allies, which will make it harder for the Germans to turn Turkey towards them. That's why I do that. So it's probably not going to matter, but probably best that I, make sure that it's there in case I need it. I have done the production. The Germans, if you'll notice, they're at 3 factory lost. That means they only had 12 factories, so they only have 24. The Italians still have their 6, they have 12. And everybody else has their starting allotments. It's severe weather, so I'm just going to keep the German production points to try and do things with their aircraft and things like that. Try and get things set up for when clear weather is going to come. So everybody's done with their economies. Strategic warfare, the nightmare of the Germans. They're +1 against the Russians. The Russians are +2. We check the faction card. The Russians do not have anything. The Germans do have a submarine, but boy, I'm not sure how I should do this. I'm ahead 3-2 on the western side, but they have ultras that they could be playing, so I think I'm going to save my subs to go against the ultras. I almost have to do that. Alright, so this is just die rolls with whatever we get for our pluses. So the Germans are +1. A 2 + 1 is a 3. The Russians are +2. 2 + 2 is a 4. So a 3 to a 4 is a diamond, so which is good for the Axis. The Russians are already as low as they can go on their factory loss marker, but the Germans get back. Their factory loss marker goes down 1, which is a good thing. And then we go to the west. The Germans are +3 because they have Brest, which is on C-Zone 7, that's 2. And then the airplane up in Norway makes an extra 1 for 3. The British get +2, but just because the U.S. is in the war. So we go to the faction cards. It's kind of, the British don't need to make any major breakthroughs. So they're going to go ahead and use their Ultra, and the Germans, of course, would use their submarines, knowing, pretty much assuming that the Ultra is going to be used. So we have our die rolls. That's what that does. So the Germans are +3 and then halved. 4 plus 3 is 7. Halved to 3.5. Rounds up to a 4. So the Germans have a 4. The British add 2. They have a 6 plus 2, which is 8. And then they have that. So that's a 4. And a 4 to a 4 is a diamond each. So we both get back a factory loss. The Germans are now down to 1 again, which is as low as they can go. And the British got one of their factories back. So if they could just get 2 in a row back, where they would, actually start to make a difference on their economy. But we'll just have to depend on Lend-Lease, I guess, in the long run. And that takes care of that. Oh, I need to double check the Russians. They're at 6, -1 is 5, +5 is 10, and a Lend-Lease 11. Yep, they got 22 production points. Almost as much as the Germans. Okay, that's strategic warfare. Strategic movement for the Axis. What was I going to do here? I had to look around a little bit. Now, I could strategically move this. I think I'm going to play some games here. The best way I can describe it. I'm going to strategically move. Where's my faction card? I think I'm going to strategically move this airplane. And I'm going to take it out of Königsberg, and I'm going to drop it in, is it 28, 21, I think it is? 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. No, that's not it. It must be, it must be here. 27, 22. 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, 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 boom. 5, 5, 5. Okay, by being placed in that position when the bombers come, because the Americans in the war, I can be anywhere in Germany and count against the West. So by having my airplane here in 27, 22, I am within 5 movement points of just about every factory in Germany except for Prague, Vienna, and the Polish corridor one here in Posen. So any American bombers that want to get through will have to be hit by my fighter. So that's sort of my first line of defense. As they get more bombers, I may have to pull airplanes in. But then that's my strategic movement. The West, where are we? Oh, I should get my little fast jumpy thing. Makes it go faster. I see no reason to spend production point. Oh, that's what we forgot to do. We forgot to roll for our dice here. Let's finish strategic warfare. I should be rolling dice for these counters. The Germans roll for their submarine a 5. That's not good. 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming back in August. Ouch. And the British roll for their Ultra a 1. They get it back next turn. So they have a good chance of being able to mess with the Germans again. Okay, finish strategic warfare, back to strategic movement. The West, I really don't see any reason not to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and take my strategic move marker. And I'm going to drop it on the 10th Garrison Army. And I'm going to go ahead and drop him... I think we're going to go and move him all the way. Oh, I didn't pick up the unit. I'm going to move him to Cairo, however you want to pronounce it. I think everybody usually says Cairo, but that's the British. The Russians, did I have anybody hanging out in the back? Don't really, unless I have like a little, I suppose I can move the guy up here. maybe to someplace useful. It's severe, so it's not like we're going to have huge offensives going on, because we're all halved, so it's going to be like, +2 or 3 assault kind of things, and then halved. So the best you can get, I think, is like a +4, maybe even a +5. So which means when you have the maximum die rolls, you'll be at 5s, it's 3 DR results. So there'll probably be some retreats, but I don't see there being any massive breakthroughs here anywhere. Yeah, I guess I want to be able to possibly build an infantry there. Well, I can't go there now. It's where I wanted to move him, is into the line. So I don't want to move him. I don't really have anybody. Most everybody else is hanging out where I want them to be, so I'm not going to have one with the Soviets. Onwards to Axis operations phase! Yay! They have 24 production points, and they have 3, 6, 9, possibly 12 to rebuild in airplanes. But let's go do the long flight from Norway. The 5th Luft goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 1728 and gets a sortie. Because I have 2 airplanes. I have the one in Dusseldorf and one that I just strategically moved into Germany. So I'm not going to violate any home defense rules. Now the next 10 spaces goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 2036 and gets another sortie. Whoops, not a separate sortie marker though, right? We should just kind of like up this one. I guess I could carry around a whole stack of 1 sortie markers, but that would be kind of silly. And then his next move, let's see, where's the Russian aircraft more or less based? I have 1 facing the north, 1 facing the south. I only have 1 against 2 in the north, so maybe if I put him sort of in a central location. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I can put him in the junction at 2247, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at 2245 is where we'll base him, and he gets another sortie. So now I have, I'm ahead of the Russians by 1 sortie in the sortie battle for air supremacy at the moment. So, yay me. And now, I'm in, that's the only plus I ever get against the Russians, so I have to take this guy in Dusseldorf that has 2 sorties. And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, lands in, just land in Aalborg, I guess. And then he picks up, I'll add 2 sorties after I move him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back into Stavanger, and I'll give him 2 sorties, because that was 2 chunks of movement. So, took care of that problem, if you want to call it a problem. Going to look in the Middle East. Western Desert Force is going to be coming back. Question is do I want the Africa Corps? Do the British have partisans yet? No, they don't. One of the things you need to watch out for the Germans and the Italians, if you're in Egypt and the British get a partisans marker, they can actually use it on you in Egypt. But if you're in Libya, they can't, because that's not a friendly country to the British. That's a nice little limitation of the partisans. It kind of keeps you from having to deal with a -2 in any given hex. I can't do anything about his free forces and his tanks, but I have a tanks marker myself because I won't be using it up here in the east because that's all severe. We can't add airplanes. We can't do anything. Now I think I'm going to try and get ahead of the Russians here. The guy down here in front of Depnovstrik will take a sortie and whack this guy. +2, -2, or -4 makes me a net of -2. The best I can roll is a 4, and it's going to be halved to a 2. And the Russians are even worse. Best I ever get is a 1. So again, I'm in that straight exchange things. And the only reason why I'm doing this is to keep the Russians spending production points on their airplanes, and I get slightly ahead of him. Because I go here for 2, right? And do 2 there. This guy can go to do 2 here. And this guy can go, oh, what did I do? Stop that. 1, 2, whoops. I wish I could go down. He goes to 6 and puts this guy up to 6. And that just keeps the Russians, see, I have 1 at 5, 2 at 5. So if I pay my 12, I'll have 2 4s and 2 3s. And 3s give me at -1, I have a decent, I have a little better chance of getting maybe 2 sorties on him when it comes up time to actually hit him in poor weather and or clear weather that's coming. So that's why I do what I did. Alright, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. It's actually kind of straightforward. Problem is, if I fail, that could be critically failed. Don't have any. Well, I need to use the Hungarians to attack with, possibly. Don't I? Yeah, I do. Okay, I am going to make another check here on the turn track. Okay, I don't get one of my ground supports back until June. And he gets partisans next turn. And bomber command. Things are going to start getting nasty here for the Germans in 42, I think. My question is, because in my mind is that I'm dealing with Smolensk, and I don't really see a way to not give away something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He wouldn't be able to attack. So I'm going to have to keep my ground support to defend Smolensk with the Hungarians and hope the Russians don't take it. But we're going to activate. There's the national tracks. We're going to activate the Hungarians for 1. We're going to activate the German 4th Panzer and the German 4th Infantry. So that's 3 from the Germans. 1, 2, 3, which leaves them with 21. These guys all activate. And they are doing an assault on the 4th Shock Army. So we're just going to do it right away because I don't see a whole lot of other things I can do at this point. I mean, I've got a couple more of those going further south, but I don't have huge other land moves of units. So let's start off here. I start off because I'm +2 for German. We'll make the Panzer be the primary. I have +1 for the German infantry, and I have +1 for the Hungarian infantry. There are no minuses, but I will be halved. The Russians start off at +1 because they're elite, and they don't get their extra +1 because it's not clear weather. So, bada bing, bada boom, we push, hopefully, at +4 to +1, and we're halving, so I'm hoping that I can get enough to force him to retreat. We'll see how that works. Here we go, the Germans are all, well, a 6 plus a 4 is a 10. Divided by 2 is a 5. I can't get any. Can't get a better die roll. And then the Russians will roll a 1. They can't get a worse die roll. So a 5 to a 1, you think, wow, that's a great die roll. No, it's just a retreat. So the shock army will go back where it came from here, and the Panzer will take the space. He's basically going to have the same attack he had before. He'll be like +4 to my +2, and he'll probably push me back. That's just the way it goes here in severe weather a lot of times. We're going to have the same kind of attack going on here. I'm going to activate the 3rd Armored and the 2nd and a Romanian point. So let's go find the Romanian point. Goes down. The Germans go down 1, 2 for their armor, and another 1 for that infantry unit up there. And yeah, like that, I guess. Germans are +2 to start, and then +1 for his buddies. Then armor's the primary. And the Russians this time don't have any pluses. And because we're in severe, they can't throw in their tanks markers to help them out, so I get a little better odds here. But again, we're halved, so I have to roll, halfway decent. The Germans roll 5 + 5, 4 is a 9. Halved to 4.5 rolls up to a 5. And then the Russians roll straight die roll a 2. That again is a DR. So the 12th Army retreats a space. Last time I stuck the Romanians in there. If I stick the Panzer in there, I can't retreat, so I just have to stick the Romanians' nose out there, I guess, and have them get pushed back again. And then it'll be the same thing that we had in the north. 3 more points here to assault the 1st Shock Army. The Russians are at +1 for their defense. 1 German is +2, and then +1 for each of his buddies, so I'm +4 to +1 again. I need to go take those off my national track. So 1, 2, 3, I'm at 15. So that should allow me to bring back all 4 airplanes and replace like 3 steps. If he can't do any step damage to me though. He's in the same boat I am. Can't get a big enough plus to cause a DD result, just a retreat. So I should be able to do my 4 planes and maybe my convoy or another plane or something. So I should be able to get some of my sorties down across the board. So we're attacking the 1st Shock Army, +4 to +1. 4 + 3 is 7. Halved is 3.5, rounds up to a 4. And the Russians are +1. They rolled a 6. A 5 +1 is a 6, halved to a 3. A 4 to a 3, if I remember my combat results table right, a 4 to a 3 is a diamond, so I didn't get to push him there. So 2 out of 3 hexes I pushed them. Pushed them in the center, pushed them to the north of Kursk towards Orel, and the bulge coming out of Kursk I couldn't do anything about. So he'll be able to play Russian army movement games. I'm not going to activate anything else for the Germans. Go check the Italians and see if there's anything I need to do here. Oh, yeah, there was. I only have 12 left, so that's like 3, 6, and then, yeah. We're going to go ahead and move this low supply guy there for 1 production point. Because it's either 2 3s and a 4, or my 3 3s. I just don't have enough production points. The Germans can't spare any right now. So, that's the way it goes sometimes. And we have severe down here in the Mediterranean, don't we? Right? Oh my goodness. Which means my my supplies should be fairly easy to take care of. The British would be, well, let's wait till I get, yeah, I'm in supply phase. I don't have anything else to move with the Italians. So the British would be +2 for being British, -1 for sorties. So they'd be at +1. Means the best they could roll would be a 7, halved would be a 3.5, which would be a 4. Best I can roll is a 4, minus 2 is a 2. So he can actually intercept my supply here at Benghazi if he rolls well. Because the best I can get is a 2. Alright, well, maybe I can run him up some sorties. That's all I can do right now, I think. So I'm going to supply the, what is it, the 4th? We're going to try and supply the 4th garrison unit from Benghazi. That's garrisoning Benghazi. And the British, seeing a chance to run up some sorties on the Italians, will go ahead and intercept with the home fleet that's sitting down here. One of these days I'll get the home fleet and the med fleet swapped back so that it doesn't look so funny, but it's really immaterial. They represent the same kinds of things. So, best the Italians can get is a 4 halved down to a 2, and the British are at +1. That's because they start off at +2 for British and then -1 for their sortie. So they're +1 and the Italians are -2. The British roll a 1 + 1 halved is a 1, and the Italians roll a 6 -2 is a 4, halved is a 2. So each take a sortie. And this one takes a sortie to get the supply through because the escort worked. And this low supply marker goes away. And at this point, I take 2 sorties on this convoy. Oops, I have to put a sortie marker there. 2 sortie markers there to supply him and that Italian unit that's in the fort. So these 3 are in supply from there. These 2 draw their low supply from Tripoli. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably need to change that. Don't I? Yep, I supplied the wrong one. Not the 4th. It would have been the 5th. I want to supply the one at El Gallia because that's a choke point. It's still a -2, but he would be -2 to attack me with an invasion, and I might actually be able to intercept it. The idea is to drive the escorting fleet up to 6 sorties, so that you can't use it to help with supply. All right, that's the Axis operations phase. I'm going to take a quick break, see how long it's taken me, see if I'm going to split this turn in 2, or maybe, like I did the last time, add the West. So, hang on just a second. Let me see how long this took. Hi, everybody. I'm back. I'm at 28 minutes, but I am going to go ahead and do the West because there's not a lot for them to do. It shouldn't take me more than 5 minutes, I think, at most. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. So we're going to move the Western Desert. Where's the British? Master tracks. I'm going to spend 2. I'm going to move the Western Desert Force. And he's just going to motor up the railroad here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, he's not. He's going to actually stop back here. The reason why, 55-44, if I go at 54-43, the Germans can try and do a cutesy move. I mean, they don't have the greatest. I have lots of tanks and things, but just to be in good practice, if I put him at 54-43, the Germans could come up, attack him, force him to retreat, and then attack the BEF, and he would have no retreat, so he would start taking step losses, which costs me production points, if not a willpower, if he gets away with killing it like he did the Western Desert Force the last time I did something silly like that. So I'm not going to put myself in that silly kind of predicament. I now have a retreat route for the BEF through 55-44, back to 55-45 if I have to, and then I can retreat even further. Actually, I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to stop at 55-46. just so that I have lots of retreat spaces for the BEF. I have at least 3, 4. I don't think he can attack me more than that. So, okay, that's that. I need to do. I'm going to move this off. Put this here because he's going to go to low supply for this turn. Save me some sorties. The Americans are going to go up 1. And then the British will go up 2 here at Suez. Actually, no. We're going to actually have... The Americans are going to take all 3 on themselves this time. They'll go up to 4. That's the BEF, the Western Desert Force, and the airplane are all in supply. The ships are all in supply by their just being ships. So that's basically it. There isn't anything else for the British to really do until we get to replacements phase, when I'll start trying to figure out who rates replacements and who doesn't. Otherwise, we're pretty much done with the British turn. Okay, so that will end this video. Thanks for watching it. This is the first half of this episode. I break these into 2 because it takes me about a half an hour to do each side, and then the beginning and the end phases and things. So we will pick up with the Russian March 1942 response. We have done the Axis in the West in this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter to this. Leave me comments, good or bad. I need to know what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. This is Dren608. I'll see you in a little bit with the other half of this turn.